These are home movies I took with an 8mm movie camera between 7th and 12th grade, starting with a bus trip to Washington, D.C. Here are two of my classmates on the bus, first Nancy Sassoon and then Lorraine O'Donnell. Our first stop was at the Naval Observatory in Annapolis. Here we are off the bus and walking toward the buildings. And there are some of us in front of a fountain, fooling around and waving. The one initially in the center is Frank D'Elia. Here is the main building we went into. Unfortunately, without floodlights, I did not have the technology to film indoors, and I don't even remember what happened. In the front here is my friend Donald Lee, followed by Michael Skruloff. And here is the observatory. Next, we went off to Mount Vernon. Here we are departing the bus and entering the entrance. And there is Mount Vernon. Very, very beautiful. I'm sure it looks the same today. So we went inside and we explored the grounds. I don't remember that much of what was inside, but it was quite impressive, and it still is. And here we are going past more of the buildings that are part of the estate, and then back to the bus. And this is me in front of the bus. I must have been 13 or 14 then. We're getting close to the city. There's the Capitol and the Potomac River. We're on the highway. And here we are in the city. Everyone fooling around again and talking. And here's the FBI building. Large, impressive structure. I don't think we were let inside, but we did walk around outside on the street before heading off on the bus again. So a lot of activity during one day. So here we are on the street before we get back into the bus. And the next stop is the Washington Monument. So here we are, quite a huge structure. I don't think they had an elevator. We had to climb all the way up to the top. It took forever. The scenery was quite beautiful. And I came back here in 1970 when Jane Fonda had a big anti-war talk there. She was a famous actress and an activist. So here we are on the grounds of the monument, walking over quite a vast area. Here's social studies teacher Lou Brody, always ready to humiliate anyone who couldn't answer questions in his class, but his movies did not come out. He messed up and mine came out, as you see now. Here's the scenery from the top of the Washington Monument. Very, very beautiful. And I remember bicycling from Arlington over this bridge when I went to college in D.C. I still love bicycle riding to this day. One of the things we could see from the Washington Monument was the Jefferson Monument. Very beautiful and serene looking. We could also look down the mall, and there at the other end is the Capitol, which we did not get a chance to visit. We did actually get to go inside the White House and get a tour, which was quite interesting. That's probably my best indoor memory. And again, with a very inexpensive wind-up Keystone camera, movie camera, I'm lucky I got the quality of film that I was able to get. So here's some more of the scenery, and here we are outside. A bunch of students, people running also. Running was quite new then. There's Skriloff, the class clown, who got in tremendous trouble. Gloria Ripoll over there again. Looks like Jan Rose. And Lou Brody, Frank D'Elia, and I think Lily Russo in the back. And here are some more pictures or movies being taken of everyone. Really only my stuff came out, which was quite an embarrassment. Okay, people are taking photos. There's Mr. Brody again, and there is our class at the end of the Washington, D.C. part of our tour in front of the Washington Monument. And more of the students, a little more Weiss, I forget his first name. Skriloff pretending to smoke a cigar. Jan Rose again, looks like the back of Frank D'Elia. Mr. Brody. Here I am in the glasses in our motel room with Jeff Drimmer. He's the taller one, and I'm not sure who the shorter kid is. Might be Sulner. I don't remember who was taking the movies either, but we are fooling around and having lots of fun. Yeah, it's probably Sulner there on the left, now Drimmer on the left, and Sulner on the right. And that's all we could do is play fight and pillow fight during the night. Yeah, it was quite a miracle that there was black and white film, and you had to guess at the settings to get everything right. And it was 16 frames per second, very, very slow. But that's what I could afford then. I got my Keystone camera when I was 13 for my bar mitzvah, and later on when I could afford it, I did a little work at a camera store. I got slowly better and better movie cameras. Nothing compared to what's around now, but at least there are some memories of all this stuff. And this basically went on with the pillow fighting and the play fighting forever. And eventually we did get to sleep. So this is our motel room where we stayed in D.C. Probably a few days. We also got to visit the Capitol and went inside the rotunda, very open and airy, if I remember correctly. Here's the Washington Monument from a distance, and another view of the Washington Monument from the mall. So I'm not sure where we are going now, but we are eventually heading to the World War II Monument Iwo Jima. Quite impressive as well. So this is an island in the Pacific. There was a big battle between the Americans and the Japanese. The Americans won, and here are the soldiers planting the American flag. Possibly a turning point in World War II as well. And everyone was quite impressed by this monument. So here we are standing around the monument, and people waving, and then we're off to Arlington National Cemetery. This is where you'd get buried if you died during a war and you were a soldier fighting for America. And we arrived for the changing of the guard for the unknown soldier. So there's the tomb of the unknown soldier. The guard marches back and forth like a robot. And then at certain times of the day, very ritualistic and formally, they change the guards. I believe one guard gives the rifle to the next guard. So they switch, and no one says a word. Again, this seems to be the formalism of how the soldiers work at this monument. And we are standing around silently watching as this all goes on. Quite impressive also. And there's the tomb again with the guard going back and forth and back and forth. Apparently the new guard. And this is up on a hill, so there's a beautiful view of the surroundings. And again, someone giving their life for our country, the audience, and us, and the name large isn't even known. Tourists is quite impressive and an emotional experience. Weapons, watching, doing everything else, rituals which occurs in a very choreographed way, even to this day. I'm sure this is still going on in the same place at specified times. Here we are leaving again, and the bus driver is on the right. Skenk Bus Lines. Next is the Colonial Governor's Mansion. And here we are on our way in. That is the gate. And I actually don't remember much of this part of the trip, but we'll see what happens next. So it's another beautiful house with extensive grounds. I just wish I knew more about architecture so I could give you some info. They certainly have a lot of trees planted and beautiful garden areas, so it's aesthetically quite pleasing. And here we are going through a gate with a trellis, obviously, and again lots of plants, none of the wild ones I know, and don't remember the names except this is John Hofbauer. I beat him in a lot of chess games a few years later once I learned how to play chess. I think he became a dentist, and there's Mr. Brody again, and some of the other students as usual. So we are off to the House of Burgesses. This is like the legislature in Virginia in colonial times. Again, beautiful windows. I don't know what they're called, where they're recessed with the curves and the bars going through them, or that circular one. Here are more of the students. That's Gary Klein. And here we are going through the arches and looking at the very beautiful house. Of course, none of this stuff was explained to us. And the Confederate flag, I doubt that is up there anymore, but that's what they had. And here we are wandering around outside, and maybe going inside and looking around in there. So then we are off to somewhere else. A lot of bus driving and sitting in the bus. So this is Jamestown, and this is one I know a little bit about. This is probably a recreation of the fort because the exact spot was lost. It's black locust trees with very hard, durable wood. One of the things we eat flowers from on my tours that had remnants underground. And this is after this recreation, the archaeologists were actually able to find where the fort of Jamestown was. So there's a cooking pot and wooden fortifications and stocks. If you misbehaved, you'd be in the stocks. So a really good recreation, and pointed sticks to keep out apparently the natives, who I do believe eventually wiped out the colony. But it was the first colonial effort in the New World, and quite beautiful recreations of what the architecture of that fort looked like. So we had fun exploring it, and they had some animals there too. So if this video gets your goat, you are in good shape. And there is the seashore with recreations of the wooden sailing ships that we walked around on. Also very, very impressive. This was a lot of fun going here. Up and down the planks. Fortunately, no one had to walk the plank. And lots of rigging. And they did use the white pine tree with its flexible wood in colonial time masts, because the evergreen has to shed snow in the winter, otherwise the leaves would be weighed down. So that was ideal for making masts, and had ramifications during the War of Independence. Here we are in our motel room, and very dangerous situation. I have a smelly sock, and it's going to kill Roy Israel. Very, very bad. Poor Roy. I still feel bad 60 years later having done this to him. He was the class genius. Anytime there was a question in any class, he knew the answer. But no answer to the smelly sock, and that last breath, that did it. That's the end of him in his death throes. Poor Roy. And oh no, I smelled the sock too. I should never have done that. Now it's killing me too. Rigor mortis has set in. And there's Jeff Drimmer. No, Jeff, don't do it. Don't smell the sock. Oh, poor Jeff. He joined us in death. There's one thing to learn. Stay away from deadly, smelly socks. And what can I say? We had a lot of fun with all the materials for quite late at night. Too bad they isolated the girls' rooms from the boys' rooms, so we couldn't get to visit each other. But we still fooled around and had fun. And this again is black and white film, which you can use indoors. So I'm glad I had that. So here we are outside the last motel, starting to gather early in the morning. There is Skenk's Tour, that's the bus line, and we're gonna get ready to leave. So there is the motel, probably not very different from what those look like today. And here we are starting to file into the bus. And it's a long trip, probably 5 hours from Maryland. There are some of the teachers just milling around and talking, packing our stuff into the bus. And I do remember Mr. Brody made jokes about the bus driver. There's the cafeteria. The food was pretty awful. I'd strongly recommend you don't eat there. And we finally got on the bus going back, and the uneven, shady inside of the bus, and then the light hitting people where the light comes in, was way beyond the capacity of my very inexpensive Keystone movie camera, even with modern day editing, to get right. But there's Lorraine again. I did ask her to the senior prom, and she decided she'd rather stay home than go out with me. And we did stop at Annapolis on the way back. There is the bus driver backing up in anticipation to when you had computers and you needed to back up everything. That's apparently a church. That's part of it. Annapolis is a military academy, so you get your college degree there, and then you spend 2 years either in the Navy or in the Marines. And you can see it is coastal here and quite beautiful. It's been around probably since the 1700s, so large grounds. And that looks like Jeffrey Drimmer. And there is a Greek-type statue. Not sure who that's supposed to be. There is one of the buildings. It was pretty empty when we were there. You would think there'd be a lot of students, and now we're back on the bus again, heading toward New York City and Queens. There's Mr. Brody, as usual. Don't know what he was talking about. One of the students who I don't really recognize. And people just socializing as we are heading back or about to head back. This time I don't think there are any more stops. So let's get going. And what do people have to do? Well, some of them are playing cards. This is before I started playing chess, or I would have been doing that. Did not know how much I would enjoy chess. People are talking and socializing. Some of the kids were making out. Not me. I was one of the least popular kids in the class. I was a science nerd my whole life. And this is before science nerds were getting rich. So I brought a gyroscope. You use a string to make it spin, and then it stays in position, turning around but not angling up or down until the wheel stops spinning. The girls, of course, did things like having their hair done. Lorraine is having her hair done by Dolores Ripoll, and we are finally getting close to New York City and Queens, where the bus will let us out, and this very long trip finally ends. In 1963, when I was in 7th grade, the school had a carnival. That's Peter Weiss. The school, by the way, is in Jackson Heights, Queens. Mr. McGowan, excellent science teacher. Lily Russo on the left, who still owes me my first chess book that I lent to her. And there's Mr. Brody, the science teacher, and Mr. Hughes coming up. Terrible gym teacher, taught me nothing and lowered my grade average drastically because I was not good at sports. So there's lots of junk food being sold. No one knew that it was bad for you then. Sugar was supposed to give you quick energy. Totally wrong. So one of the older students, or two of them, are giving out cotton candy. There's Roy Israel, the class genius who wound up with schizophrenia and institutionalized after 1 year of college. Haven't heard from him since. And there's Gary Klein, who always had something nasty to say to you. Donald Lee and Paul Gilrelli, good friends, but left school after 1 year. They tried to talk me into smoking cigarettes, and I believe Don has died of pulmonary congestive disease. I was unable to reply to his email about 5 years ago. And there is the school custodian. Hill was bulldozed during the summer. I used to have an old rundown called the clubhouse gym there, and they turned it into a ball field. So lots of construction going on. So maybe this is 8th grade. I know we used the no longer extant facility in 7th grade. There's the whole school, a bunch of one-story buildings, and we did take a trip to Cooperstown. And here we are getting ready to get on the bus. I remember my mother dropping me off. There is Mrs. Auden, science teacher, Mr. Brody, social studies teacher, Miles Gompert, quite unpleasant person, and here we are underway. This is probably the view from the Tappan Zee Bridge when it was quite new, and we kept driving and eventually stopped for lunch. And I believe this is another skank bus. So we're getting on it now. I think we did other stops as well. That might have been Peter Weiss. And Shapiro, don't remember his first name, coming out of the diner. Now looks like Miles Gompert again. And lots of other people. Weiss again. And a crowd of us, probably on the grounds of the museum here. I think that's what it looks like. It's been 60 years since I was there. But you can see the sign. And everyone was fooling around on the grounds. And then we did get to go inside and see the various exhibits honoring baseball players. I don't remember what we're doing here, picking each other up. Robert Akampora picking up Peter Weiss, a bunch of the girls. Oh, Aki got him. He's not going to get away this time. Geraldine Bamberger, John Hofbauer, Shelley Cowell, and Tom Sweeney, another nice kid, before we set off for the Farmers Museum, and here we are. So lots of the same students again, beautiful grounds near a lake, and farm equipment from the 19th century. Of course, technically I was limited and could not go inside with the camera and get any good film. So there's Tom Sweeney, Kenneth Hess, Payless for Hess, Sweeney again, Lorraine O'Donnell in funny sunglasses, Barbara Brucato in front of her. The building does certainly look 19th century, quite beautiful, and there were some animals around too. So there's Mr. Brody with some of the students as we explore the grounds, and there is the building. Ken Hess was just there, and Sweeney raising his arm, forgot his first name, probably Tom. And there is a peacock. I don't remember the peacock's name either, but it's the first time I saw peacocks not in a zoo and just walking around like that. Also a rabbit that let me approach it and get some movies of it. Very, very cute rabbit. So there it is, and I believe it scampers off. Yeah, there it goes. Not very far, and probably finding lots of food. There was a turkey as well, and they all seem to be pretty used to human beings, so we got pretty close to them. There's Lily Russo. After she broke up with her boyfriend, I took her to a movie right after graduation, and she had borrowed one of my chess books. We'd been friends for a while, but since I held her hand in the movie, she was so offended. She's kept the chess book and still has it to this day, and has ghosted me for 55 years. Okay, so here we are in the grounds, and I think that's Lake George in the background. No, Lake George is by the hotel. There's Frank D'Elia and Joyce Cohn, who does a dance for me. She's very sweet, beautiful woman. And Roy Israel on the right, Richard Olmo on the left. So she was in 7th grade. We were in 8th grade. And I don't know who the dancer there is. But the scene was quite nice. There's Harold Eisenstadt in the front. A whole bunch of us walking around the grounds. Frank D'Elia, Tom Sweeney, Dolores Ripoll on the right, and Peter Percadiano, just very briefly. Dolores Ripoll again, and there is Joyce. I wish I had asked her out. She's friendly and quite beautiful. And Ken Hess approaching the camera. People went inside where, of course, I couldn't film. And here is the motel where we stayed. Looks like lots of other motels with a dining area or a little restaurant or cafe, whatever you call it. And there is Lake George and Jerry Cavalieros, my friend for quite a few years, really nice guy. And a bunch of students again playing with a phone booth. That's how you had to make phone calls. So I went out on the dock, so the lake goes up to the motel, and there's a closer look at the motel and the skank bus and everyone jumping over the fence and fooling around and having fun. Peter Percaniano, however you pronounce it, haven't gotten that right in 60 years. Nice kid, funny, but since he was short and therefore didn't do well in gym, he got picked on a lot, and undeservedly. And there are people still vaulting over the fence. Frank D'Elia cheering them on. Jeff Drimmer maybe, and whoever is next I cannot really tell. And kids burning off their energy and running around the grounds. Peter in the front, looks like Gary Klein on the left, Frank D'Elia again, and now we visit the Baseball Hall of Fame. So this is it. Lots of baseball mitts and other paraphernalia, trophies and the like inside, which of course I didn't have the technology to film. So here are some of us about to go in. And here is Mr. Brody again. Not sure who the woman is, maybe a class parent who is in the trip with us. Sort of looks like it, yelling at someone for something. We're always doing something wrong. And here's the bus driver going after Frank D'Elia with his broom. Get Frank! Get him now! Or maybe it's a baseball game. So here we are back going home. And our next trip is to Howe Cavern, which I really liked. Beautiful scenery. There is an extremely long train, probably close to a mile long, and observation on top. Of course, I couldn't film in the cavern, but it was very, very cool. Stalagmites, stalactites, stream going through, and here we are going up the hill, probably to the bus, and or maybe to the entrance of the cavern themselves from the observation deck. But as a science geek, and there's Joyce Cohn again, one of the nicest kids in the school, for a science geek like me, it was really, really interesting. And there comes probably Lily Russo running up the hill. Our next trip is to Gettysburg. And there's my sister Lily. Probably drove me to the school with my luggage to get on the bus, and here we are on the bus with Mr. Brody again, and Miles Gompert on the right. And that was a short trip. There we are off the bus with the bus driver going over to the cemetery. Here's our first stop at the Hershey plant where they're making chocolate. Now, where could that have been? Oh, Hershey, Pennsylvania. So we got to see all the mechanisms for producing stuff that I would not eat. I use chocolate, but without the sugar in it, and I'll put in stevia and other ingredients to make good chocolate desserts now. But certainly nothing like this. And back in the bus, there's Lorraine asleep. And here is our next stop. And we are going into the police academy in Pennsylvania. And there is some of the equipment that the police use hung up on the wall. They used to have mounted police back then, including in some of the streets in Queens where I lived, so they learn how to use horses, and they look like they're quite good riders. I've ridden horses myself. And there's the shooting range, and here is the motel that we stayed in, similar to all the other hotels. It had a swimming pool that was full of all kinds of microorganisms. Wish I'd had a microscope to see what they were. So here's the scene outside the motel with the parking lot. Peter Perpignano is waving a Confederate flag and getting attacked by the Yankees. Go get him! And everyone had lots of fun. And then we went to have lunch, some of which was quite toxic. So there is Weiss, and he succumbed. Peter Perpignano looks like he's about to succumb too. But we did get to the battlefield, and here are some of the buildings and the scenery. We're off the bus, walking to a monument. This is where Lincoln gave his Gettysburg Address in 1869. And here we are walking around the monument and checking out the battlefield. Beautiful monument and a very serene place, quite befitting for what had happened here. Here is more of the scenery, and this is where Pickett's charge occurred, and of course everyone is reenacting it. I think that was supposed to be the high point for the Confederacy. They got no further north than this, and they were defeated. So battlefield is a nice place to run around and tackle each other and have fun. So lots of the same students you've been seeing. We had school trips 7th and 8th grade, and that had been going on for years, and after that it was discontinued without a word. So a bunch of us, when the lighting is good, I got good images. When the lighting was not good, or I guessed the exposure wrong, we got bad images. But people are being tortured, rightfully, deservingly. Get them. Fight back. Run. That might be Sulner who is being attacked. And that looks like a back of Harold Eisenstein, who was my friend in 7th grade and then turned against me. Now we're at Little Round Top, another major Civil War battle. Looks sort of barren, but apparently the armies were determining who was the king of the hill. And we went up to the top and walked on some of the trails. Too bad there was no nature instruction there. Lots of stuff I could show people now about edible plants. That looks like Lisa Davidson being attacked by Harold Eisenstein. Lisa was pretty nice. Again, not in my grade, the grade below me. The women or girls in my grade were, for the most part, not friendly or at best neutral. But she is apparently being tortured. Now we're back in the bus. There's Jan Rose again. And here is a famous battle painting by the artist Paul Filippo. It's panoramic, goes around an entire room. I do have a black and white camera, but obviously you can see much better images of this today, 60 years later, or maybe only 59 years later, on the internet. But very, very detailed, with soldiers and guns and all kinds of action. Must have taken forever to paint. Even took a long time just to pan around the room and see all the different scenes and artifacts, buildings and horses, you name it. Probably the best recreation, the original, not this black and white movie, that you're going to see of that pivotal scene in the Civil War. And here we are in the motel, and I suffer a violent death, or one of the students assassinates me. Kaboom! And there are my death throes. Ah! Did I eat a poison mushroom? No, it's too early. I've just been shot. Here we are in the bus. Gloria Ripoll is combing Lorraine O'Donnell's hair, and we arrive at Valley Forge, another important historical site, and there are some of the cabins George Washington stayed in. Now we've got quite an estate there, lots of beautiful buildings, and there's Mr. Brodie up on a wall walking around and jumping off. He usually was a comedian, although he had a cruel side. Here we are in the bus again. There's Mr. Brodie, Lou Brodie, and Jeff and Barbara Brucato sleeping together. I don't think they like me filming them. And here's Fort William Henry we stopped at. This is a major fort in the French and Indian War, where the French won. They let the English soldiers depart, but the Native Americans, each tribe with a different language, didn't really understand the terms, and they came in and slaughtered all the wounded that had been left behind. I believe this was rebuilt around 1950 to look very much like the original, and they did a good job at it. Lots of wooden structures, stairways that you'd think were correct. And there's Tom Sweeney at the left and Jerry Cavalieros, both friends of mine, nice kids. And they're sitting on a cannon. And here is, looks like Donald Lee in the stocks. Lily Russo walking by. And Miles Gompert in stocks, which he pretty much deserved. He was nasty. John Hofbauer behind him. He was nasty to me in 7th grade and apologized, and then we got along quite well after that. Miles Gompert and his girlfriend Jan Rose, and typical of their relationship, now that she's stuck in there, he's pulling off her hair. That's sort of how their relationship went. Frank D'Elia, is he going to volunteer to go in there with, Nancy is going in there. So she's going to get stuck, and so is Frank. So these are the punishments that the soldiers had for misbehaving. There is Shelley Cowell making faces, and looks like John Ullman next to her. Harold Eisenstadt being hit, not sure by who's whipping him. Joanne Willoughby with her still camera. I was the only student with a movie camera, and that was Joyce Cohn. Next to her, Barbara Brucato, and more were the students. I think that was the class mother. And now I'm getting it. And you could sit on it. Smoking was quite acceptable then. I hated it as much as I do now. But back then, anyone could smoke in your face who wanted to. Shelley Cowell for a second at the left. Lou Brody. He's going to go on the Canon 2. These are probably real cannons, or certainly expert recreations. Shelley has a candy there. And here are more of us walking around in the courtyard. A little better lighting than usual. And more scenes of the fort that overlook a beautiful lake. I forget the name of the lake, maybe Lake Champlain, but don't quote me on that. Joyce Cohn, again one of the nicest girls in the school, and also one of the most attractive, and people just fooling around. So here we are back at our motel, and there is the bus driver coming out of the bus. Nice guy. And here is another scene outside the motel, and they had swings that, of course, everyone went on. There's the parent going into the, maybe it was Mrs. Roper. It's very possible Edgar Roper's mother, but I'm not really sure. And I believe this is where we had our dinner, and they had boats on the lake. Not sure if we went on the boats, but there's a nice scene of the lake. Again, the lighting is coming from the wrong direction, so my camera was not very happy with it, but that's what you had to put up with technology back then. Very happy to have an iPhone that takes good movies today. And we did get to go out on the boats. So there we are rowing. Not quite sure who is in there, but that was a lot of fun. I probably got to row on one of these too, and took the movies from my boat, which makes them even more shaky than usual, although I did my best to hold the camera as still as I could. On choppy water, that's about as much stability as you can get. So there is the coastline, the motel where we were staying at, and I believe it was quite cold then, and it wasn't a time of year where it's usually cold, but we still had a really, really good time, especially the rowing. I love to be on the water, and I'm a swimmer to this day. And we stopped at Howard Johnson's, probably on the way back. And now we're going back into the school, Garden School in Jackson Heights. There's the French teacher, Mrs. Sardell, quite a sourpuss, spoke French with a Brooklyn accent and resented that my accent was better than hers. I had taken some private tutoring to prepare for this class. Here's Mr. Gowan, 8th grade physical sciences teacher. He was excellent, explained everything clearly, very nice guy. I loved his class. And here are some students filing in. Barbara Brucato and Jan Rose. Now we graduate to 9th grade. Here is a science lab, although I don't quite remember if this is our teacher. But again, I always loved science, and lots of students about to start the class. Jan Rose here did not like that I was taking a movie of her. I guess I took too many of them. Sorry, Jan. And here's Mrs. Langman, French teacher, a little flaky and not all that bright, but at least she had a French accent. She was from France, and she did her best teaching us. Everyone but me hated French, so she had a hard job. Now here we are in gym doing calisthenics. Caused me lots of knee problems. Jim Hughes, very dogmatic teacher who taught me nothing. And since I was not as good at sports as other kids, I kept getting a C, which harmed me in trying to get into college I wanted to get into. There's Robert Acampora, who was my friend in 7th and 8th grade. More calisthenics, push-ups and sit-ups. Actually, I do push-ups and sit-ups now. I still don't like them, but they are necessary to keep me physically fit. There's Mr. Pitchford, recovering alcoholic, probably early stage dementia, and total jerk. He gave me an F for a term paper because he didn't like the topic, and I had met with him and he had suggested the topic, but he didn't remember it and decided I was making it up. When my mother came to the school to try to reason with him, he was just as narrow-minded and obnoxious. So definitely someone I'm glad I don't have in my life anymore, even now 60 years later. Good riddance, Mr. Pitchford. Next to something more cheerful, we're going to have lunch. Does anyone want a used sandwich? So here we are in the lunchroom. Of course, I brought my own lunch. The school lunch was absolutely horrible. You would think that cooks were from England. That's how bad it was. But people are having fun, and that's Mrs. Gunnings, who I believe taught algebra. And some people did buy the hot lunch in school, Jeff Drimmer, and it looks like he's about to drop dead from it, or at least become unconscious. Wake up, Jeff. Wake up. You'll have a better lunch tomorrow. Poor Jeff. Jerry Cavalieros trying to revive him, but nothing could be done. He's still in that state today. Here I demonstrate my big talent, flipping a pumpkin seed and catching it in my mouth. Meanwhile, Jan Rose and Miles Gompert are enjoying their S&M activity, while other students just beat each other up with sticks and the like. Here is our physics class. I believe that's Mr. Shipe. Again, I like this class. Other students did not. Although Mr. Shipe was very good at explaining physics principles. Now we go to world geography, also taught by Lou Brody. And I found this class very boring. Other kids liked it. You had to memorize religious disputes, the names of politicians, the names of generals. Jan Rose loved this class, and she loved Mr. Brody. So Sulner, I guess, is somewhere in between. And looks like we're having lunch now. I don't know if this is during the class or after the class. Maybe we're having lunch in Mr. Brody's room. That's what it looks like. So here are more of the students in the classroom having discussions of the generals and the battles and the various politicians. There's Robert Acampora on the right. Not sure who some of the other students are. Again, the technology, there's Sulner. The technology was not good for filming inside. John Hofbauer, I used to beat him at chess a lot. And there's Mr. Brody. And Miles Gompert having his lunch. Harold Eisenstadt as well. And Mr. Brody trying to be funny and amusing, which he sometimes could be. Jerry Cavalieros, again. Maybe Andrew Perpignano, I don't know. There's Jeff Drimmer. And people are just eating and enjoying their lunch. Frank D'Elia at the left. Not sure what he's eating, but it looks like some kind of junk food, which is what we all ate. Now, Harry Carey, ritual Japanese suicide, was part of Mr. Brody's class, so here is a demo of how it occurs. And after it's done, Gary Klein cuts off the head of the dead person and carries it off. So that at least was sort of fun, not to the dead student. So you take a knife and you pull it across and down and disembowel yourself. That's probably the thing, probably Richard Olmo there, probably the thing I remember the most about world history. And I don't know for mourning the dead, but here is more of the usual violence that is experienced whenever there was a chance. And there's Frank D'Elia, not quite sure what he's doing, Barbara Brucato, and Jan Rose. And back to Mr. Brody, who brings an empty gun into class and twirls it around to be funny. He'd probably be put in jail if he did that today. And now we have traditional Japanese sumo wrestling, where you bow to your opponent and your opponent bows back. And I don't know how one person wins or doesn't win, but this was actually entertaining. So now they're both bowing at each other. I don't know whether they're going to start fighting or not. No, I guess he's just showing what goes on in that tradition. Now it looks like someone is getting a haircut, but I'm not sure. No, they are wrestling. Now here is 10th grade, and there is some kind of an activity. Oh, Ken Hess. Photos are being taken of the students, and there's Mrs. Sardell on the right. Not sure who the other students are. There's Robert Akampora, Roy Israel in the front, Ken Hess walking by the lockers in between classes. So here are more of the ladies, the Rapole sisters facing us, probably Barbara Brucato with her back to me, Jan Rose on the right, Janet Yoakum, and we're sitting down, looks like Mrs. Sardell's class, although I think by now we had Mrs. Langman for French, so maybe this is a homeroom or a lunch or something. That's my monocular attachment, like a single binocular for my movie camera. And Roy Israel and Ken Hess are looking, I think, at Roy's camera. There's Robert again, forgot who the other guy is. Here's Mr. D'Angelo, the math teacher. Good if you're good at math, but went way too fast for me, so I would get lost. Really turned me off to math, even though he was a nice guy. I would sometimes run into him at Bel Air Mountain when I went skiing. He skied too. This is Mr. Mack, the English teacher. He was big, very into discipline, and scared the students. Not me, I was good in English, so I did pretty well in his class. There's Ronnie Schechter, who would pick his nose during the whole class, gross everyone out, and the teacher never ever saw that. Fortunately for us, he was left back to the detriment of the grade 1 year below us. And there is Mr. Mack again in the English class, totally oblivious to what Ronnie was doing. And he looks very disciplined and organized, which he was. And I thought he explained the material quite well. So I was happy in this class. Everyone's trying to follow what he is going over. Here comes Robert Akampora again, now editing and writing for medical advertising organizations, a colleague of my ex-wife's. And there's Mrs. Langman again teaching French. and kids in the class trying to stay awake. Fortunately, I could understand everything she was saying. So here's Jim again, and as I said, I got C's every time because I wasn't talented in athletics. Mr. Hughes taught me nothing, and I wound up not being able to go to Stony Brook University, which would have been within driving distance of where I lived in Queens. Had to go to George Washington in D.C. and not be with my mother when she was dying of cancer. I ran into the gym teacher, Mr. Hughes, at a 40th class reunion. Would have loved to tell him off, but he was so old and decrepit, I just did not have the heart to do so. This is a basketball game against a school called Henley, and no one could get a basket. Everyone did terribly. They could just as easily have me in that game. Every single shot is a miss. Awful basketball, but fortunately for me, I'm not a sports fan. If I'm a fan of anything, it would be chess, and obviously no one wanted to organize a chess club at the school, even though I played in tournaments and was bringing home trophies. That was something I had to do totally on my own. Here's Andrew Cerise, and in the middle, now on the right, Richard Zimini, an obnoxious bully, and Cerise was like his stooge. They kept threatening me and some of my friends, they were in grade 1 above me, for absolutely no reason. Never carried out their threat, and not sure who the guy coming out the door is. Probably their classmates, but the best thing they did is leave when I was in 12th grade. And here's Miss Phillips, a quite unfriendly English teacher, although she did present the material pretty well. Very rare for a smile. Miss Auden again, the science teacher. I loved her class in 7th grade. And Miss Sardell, the sourpuss, very unfriendly French teacher. Here she is talking to some other students, and there's Miss Phillips again. At this point, it looks like she's not happy being filmed. Ken Hess in the front, Ravrak and Akampora behind, friends of mine, nice people. So here we are in English class, and I managed to get color film now that was light sensitive enough to film indoors. That was a big innovation. And there's history teacher Mr. Pitchford again, with a heart of stone. Jeff Bass, my friend who looked like a fish. Andy Perpignano and Richard Olmo, who as of our 40th anniversary from graduation reunion was a geologist in Guam, playing around with Peter Perpignano, Jerry Cavalieros, another friend of mine sitting on the right. Well, now he's out of the scene. And Janet Yoakum, who along with Jan Rose, walking back to the bus stop, told me that I should go have sex with my iguana. On the other hand, she said she would like to give a straight punch to Mr. Mack and rupture him. He was tall. There he is. Watch out for Janet. She's coming after you. And a glimpse of Mr. Brody on the right. And again, Miss Phillips, the English teacher, who does not look that happy to be filmed, and Miss Dean, the great Latin teacher. Andrew Attaway on the left, 1 grade above us, intellect. Miss Dean, and looks like Latin class. So I'm very happy to have had her. Here's a chemistry teacher, don't remember his name, and he's not in the yearbook. And here I am with a cape taking off into the air as Superman, up, up, and away. And here's our chemistry class, Richard Olmo in the front. And here he is again. And we are learning chemistry, and this is the physics class, but I think the physics teacher is Mr. Shipe, who is shorter and doesn't look like this. So again, not really sure. Probably the chemistry teacher. Looks quite happy and cheerful explaining stuff. And I think this is Monica Goodman and Mark Wilner on the right. Barbara Brucato on the right here, and Bamberger, I think Jennifer, and there's someone in the men's locker room not quite ready yet. Meanwhile, there was a lot of showing off. That's Robert Acampora again, and there was lots of arm wrestling for some reason, and it looks like Robert has won. Last I heard of him, he was doing medical advertisement for journals, and a Joya on the left, and endless calisthenics in gym, which I certainly hated. Although I still do sit-ups and push-ups, those I need along with other exercise. More baseball in the field behind the school, or I wish they had had track and field. If I die and go to hell, I'll probably be playing baseball for eternity with people who died and went to heaven who love baseball and will therefore also be playing baseball for all eternity. And here is a basketball game. There's my class, the varsity against the faculty. And of course the gym teacher, Jim Hughes, and Pitch, I forget his first name, I never had him, would be quite good on the faculty, not so much for the other teachers, but the varsity players would be pretty good as well. I think the varsity won this, so they are lining up and getting ready. And fortunately I have my movie camera or I might be falling asleep. Again, I'm not into sports, and all the girls were allowed to do was cheerlead. So they had the cheerleading squad. Very pretty, but a little sexist to keep the women out of professional sports, but this was the 1960s, and it was a pretty conservative school. And they had a smart class and a dumb class for each grade, and if you were dumb in some subjects and good in other subjects, it didn't matter. You either went at a slow pace for everything or a fast pace for everything. And a lot of poor instruction. We only were forced to take music in 7th grade, and that was in a stifling hot, smelly room with all the windows closed, wearing sports jackets and ties, at least for the men, and memorizing librettos of opera. It took me decades before I could listen to opera again without cringing, and of course not one word about jazz. And I am a big jazz fan. As you can hear in the background, I play a little bit of jazz too. So here's everyone running back and forth and trying to get baskets and tossing the ball. And this does go on for a long time, with all the students sitting around and watching. And this is actually putting me to sleep even now, with something like 55 years later. I'm narrating this in February of 2024. And there is the final score. I think it was the varsity at the right that was winning and ultimately won. So the game continues. Long shot. Oh, got a basket. All right, that was impressive. And misses more than baskets. And back and forth. I did play back and forth with a ball and was decent when I played water polo at the Jamaica Y after graduation from college. I always loved swimming, and I still swim laps every 2 days, even as I'm approaching my 75th birthday. And someone, of course, stuck their hand up in front of the camera. I don't know if it was purposeful or they're trying to cheer. But there go balls off the rim, another one bouncing off the rim, another one doesn't go in. Here we are in the student lounge with fast film, as it was called, so I've actually got color. And I don't know who's falling asleep here, but looks pretty relaxed. Oh, everyone's getting drunk. No wonder. Staggering around in the senior lounge with more drink and more mayhem. Don't quite recognize who these students are, although I certainly should. And they're fighting over the bottle. It's mine. No, it's mine. I want to get drunk. There's nothing else to do around here. So there goes some of the school equipment. We will fight over it. Kaboom, kabang, take that, take that, take that. And more of the same? Or is someone trying to conduct music? No, I think people are just battling it out with each other and having lots of fun. My thing at that point was playing chess whenever I could. No, that sounds like, well, that looks like more fun. Yeah, and I did become a fairly good, I guess what you would call a club player. One time I beat a master in a tournament game. And got a few draws with masters on rare occasions. But everyone is having fun in the senior lounge now. Big epic battle with equipment. And I'm not even recognizing who the students are. Maybe they're in a lower grade, or I just forgot who they are. But the fight goes on. And on and on and on. And someone is praying for strength, and someone else is assisting, but it looks like it's too late. Someone has lost. Yep. The other guy is the winner. Oh no, maybe not. Turnaround is fair play, as they say. So. Again, most likely people from a lower grade. So I don't really recognize who they are. But the winner gets the girl. And off they go. Wait, he lost the girl. Someone else went off with her. Too bad. Okay, here they are again. In what looks like I filmed in slow motion, so I should talk more slowly. And they can get more drunk, especially after the last scene. How dry I am, how wet I'll be if I don't find the bathroom key. I found the key, unlocked the door, Oh, it's too late. It's on the floor. So here they go. Weapon and shield. Take that, you varlet. Take that. I will get you yet. Maybe when this is all over, I'll remember who these are. But again, it doesn't look like anyone in my grade. And they just keep going with this. Weapons and shields, and not much else to do between classes. God forbid anyone went to study. Okay, maybe you'll get him now. And that's Mr. Shipe on the right, the science teacher who I liked, I think. And the do-nothing principal, Melvin Fisher, who forced us all to wear a sports jacket and ties in the hottest weather, and never really did anything good. Robert Acampora sitting in the center, Jerry Cavaliero, there's Robert again, and forgot this guy's name. I wasn't friends with him, but he seemed to be an alright guy. Andy Grunwald was at the right there. So there's Acampora, Shelley Cowell with the sunglasses about to sit down, Ken Hess at the right, and there I am. Now what am I doing here? I do not remember at all. Maybe I'm reading something to the class, or it could be one of my chess books. And there's Jeff Bass in the front, looking to me like a fish. I'm in the back there. What's going on now? Oh boy, everyone's backing out of the school really, really quickly. What is getting them to evacuate? They want to get away from there and keep their eyes on whatever the danger is. Every single person in the school is fleeing, backing out of the school. Must be something really awful in there. What in the world? Oh, that was the day I brought my iguana to school. And there he is. And there are some cavemen fleeing, and the students and Miss Gunning, not very friendly math teacher. And here we are back in the school. Again, I have this looks like my homeroom, and people don't seem to want to be filmed. Forget this guy's name, unfortunately. And Miss Gunning, I believe she taught both geometry and earth science when plate tectonics were coming out with no evidence at all. She quoted old evidence that the earth was shrinking like an apple, and then the skin gets wrinkly, and that's what causes mountains. And no evidence at all that the diameter of Earth was any smaller. So Andy Grunwald on the right, nice guy. I even went to the same sleepaway camp as him once. And here we are playing some chess. I had a little Roy Israel in the back, Robert Acampora, Grunwald all the way back, and that's me. Not sure what class it is. Maybe it's English class. Yeah, Jerry Cavaliero next to me. No, maybe it's lunch, no class or some kind of break. I'm taking out my chess set. Anyone interested in a game? And one day it was so hot that we held our class outdoors. I think this was the Latin class. There's Lily Russo, with whom I had one date after school ended. She'd broken up with her boyfriend, and because I held her hand in a movie, she went and kept my first chess book I had lent for her, and never spoke to me again. Jeff Bass, back in school. Everyone's looks like they're getting in their seats. This might have been our homeroom, where we assembled before class. And I'm not sure who this is. This is oh, that's Mr. Pitch. I didn't have him in gym, but he was the gym teacher who came back to the school. Maybe he graduated and then 7 years later came back as a gym teacher. And this is the playground across the street from the school. And this is right in front of the school, and people are running around and doing whatever they are doing. Now here we are back again across the street from the school on the monkey bars and doing pull-ups and stuff. Looks like there's going to be some kind of sports game going on. Let's see if anything happens here. Everyone is assembling, so there could be a game coming up. I did film one entire baseball game from beginning to end, but every time I try to watch it I fall asleep, so I did not keep that represented here. It is just too boring. It just looks like people getting ready for a game, setting up, and someone running around the field of the school. And there's Velton, the custodian, and it's garden school, and he did all the garden work. There he is. And there's Jim Hughes, the gym teacher, and Velton again, and people getting ready to play baseball, apparently. So there's Jim Hughes pitching the ball. He obviously loved these sports and didn't love the kinds of sports and physical activity I'm into. I feel physical fitness is the thing that keeps you healthy for a long period of time. Again, I'm healthy and fit, and I'm going to be 75 in a few weeks, and the particular sport doesn't really matter. Here are a few of us after school just playing basketball for the fun of it, which is great if you have fun playing. I have more fun behind the camera on a horse or in the water or on skis than in basketball, but go ahead, guys. You're enjoying this? Go have fun. So there they go. I think you have to go behind a line before you can shoot again. That's the rule of this kind of half-court basketball. Maybe that's what it's called. And here we are outside the school. Morgan leads. Robert Acampora. Morgan was one grade below me. Not a very friendly person, to say the least. And people look like they're fooling around at the basketball court or baseball. There's Jim Hughes again. Harold Eisenstadt made a home run. Robert Acampora caught a ball. And there's Morgan Leeds throwing the ball, and Jim Hughes, same thing. So I'm not sure what this activity was, but at least it looks like some of the people are having fun trying to get to the base. So Robert catches the ball. I don't know if he struck Morgan Leeds out. That's Andrew Alpert, little guy, incredibly obnoxious, nasty things to say, no provocation, a total torrent. That might be Edgar Roper. And Aki catches the ball, and apparently he was quite decent in sports, and a nice guy. As I said, doing research and editing for publications that do medical advertisement, a colleague of my ex-wife. There's Mrs. Roper, Edgar Roper's mom. She participated a lot in these events, even came up to a sleepaway camp that he and I were both attending. And that looks like Lily Russo again, probably scheming on how to steal my chess book. But apparently she did get a hit and made it to a base. So one of the teams looks like it's making some progress. And looks like gym teacher Mr. Pitch Now here is the cafeteria. They once put porcupine balls on the menu. It was such a laughing stock that they finally eliminated the word porcupine and just put balls on the menu. That didn't make it much better. The cooks were absolutely terrible. You would think they were imported from England. I had the school lunch the first day in 7th grade, and then until I graduated in 12th grade, I just brought my own lunch. Porcupine balls are actually a depression form of stretching meat by mixing beef with rice and making meatballs. This is Merkel's food, big laughing stock back then. That's in Jamaica, Queens. They found the meat was adulterated with kangaroo meat and some unknown meat. I'd like to see DNA evidence now. And there they are selling it on the street. So people wanted to see this, so I went and took movies. Are there any kangaroos left? There could be. Well, there's a kangaroo. That's me. Merkel meat is good, 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 good. Every kid in the neighborhood says, Merkel. And there's Lorraine O'Donnell on the right, who decided she'd rather stay home and not go to the prom than go with me. And Joyce Cohn, a very nice young lady who was one grade below me, and wondered how I tolerated all the awful people in my class. Jan Rose with Lorraine O'Donnell on the left. And there's Joyce again. I hope she did well with the rest of her life. She definitely deserved it. Very cheerful, too. Not sure what she's reading. And everyone is here studying very seriously. It looks like there must be a test coming up. Switching books, too. Unless they're signing each other's yearbooks. No, the yearbook had a white cover. But it does look like they're writing something in there. So this is the senior lounge. That looks like me on the left, at least my hand sticking out. I did have a tripod and I had a floodlight, and I tried to measure the light so the exposure would be good. Of course, 50 years in the can, the film degrades, but still enough, good enough that you can see everyone there. Two girls that were not very nice to me, and one girl on the left who was nice to everyone. So we are studying something, maybe studying for the Latin class. We were in Latin class, and here is Joyce playing chess. I got the school interested in chess. Not enough so that there could be a chess club. No teacher volunteered to organize that. Hi, Joyce. Nice to see you after all those years. And, of course, playing in tournaments and having a B rating, an A rating, U.S. Chess Federation, when I graduated, I never even drew a single game. I won every game I ever played. Maybe I should have given some of the players odds, played without a knight or something. Probably most of them I could have played without a queen and still won. Again, they were beginners, they knew the moves, but I actually studied chess books, for which I got derision, and won trophies and tournaments. My graduation present for myself was going up from Class B to Class A in over-the-board chess. In postal chess, where you play a bunch of people at the same time, send postcards, and both players can move the pieces on the board before they come to their best decision and send the postcard back. I was an expert. Maybe I would have become a master in postal chess if I had continued, but who knows. So there's Shelley Cowell on the left. She was friendly. I finally dared hold her hand under the table, and she sang a song, gospel song that Elvis Presley did as loud as she could, called "He Touched Me," to try to embarrass me as much as she possibly could. is Barbara Brucato. And here are people sitting in the senior lounge. Barbara Brucato, Jan Rose. And this looks like Latin class. The light coming in from the window certainly didn't help with the equipment. And I set up a tripod and turned it on and went back to my seat. Pretty good class. The most likable teacher, and Robert Ullman, nice kid who got picked on even more than me. I ran into him on the street after our 40th reunion. He had a trucking business. He had his own truck and did deliveries and moving. And he said he would never have come to the reunion because of how badly the other kids treated him. I actually appreciated that because it kept them off my back, always picking on him. So there I am in the middle, Barbara on the right, on the left. Not sure who that is all the way on the right. Might be Mark Wilner. Actually, the more I think of it, the more I think that was him. We actually learned enough that we were able to read a book by Caesar where he has the famous saying, I came, I saw, I conquered. Yeah, here I am maybe reading Latin in the front of the class. What else would you do in Latin? John Ullman again, hope things continued to go well with him and his business thrived. And he's probably as happy not to be there as I am. There's Lily Russo playing chess. And I think it looks like I let her take back a move, or maybe I'm just setting up the pieces. But where are all my pieces? They're gone. Oh, we better set them up. Yeah, so we're setting up the pieces for a chess game. Amazing how friendly she was, and then again, how after one date she ghosted me and kept my first book, which was Fred Reinfeld, How to Win in the Chess Openings. And here again, like in 7th grade and 12th grade, we had a school carnival, a few games and contests. Gary Klein, pretty nasty guy on the left, Rochelle Cowell, Jeff Bass in the back, giving out junk food, and there were a few games, and that was sort of it. Mr. Milavoy, English teacher, I never had him, and more cotton candy given out by Gary Klein, definitely quite unfriendly, but at least he didn't bully or threaten me like some of the kids in the upper classes. Just unkind remarks. Shelley back there, and here are the grounds of the school with people walking around, and one of the games of the carnival was bowling, and you did get prizes if you won these games. So people are having fun doing that. Looks like someone's getting a haircut. Forgot this guy's name. And oh no, if you hit the target, you got water sprayed on that guy. That was your reward. Here we are across the street from the school. Janet Yoakum again, pretty unfriendly in my class. Jan Rose. Looks like Lori Rippol on the right, and the science teacher, I think that's Mr. Scheib on the left. Quite a nice guy. So here are people running, which was not something we did very often. Maybe they hit a baseball, and that's why they're running. And here I got the running in slow motion. Big feature on one of my cameras. You could turn it into slow motion. Whoopee. Mr. Pitch, the gym teacher I never had. Looks like kids from a lower grade. And what is this? It is the end. Hope you enjoyed it.